right, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time to join this month's edition of Water Data Forum. Water Data Forum is a virtual web panel series presented by Cleveland Water Alliance, the Water Environment Federation, and the Midwest Big Data Innovation Hub. It's my great pleasure to welcome you today to, I think, the first session of the new year. My name is Max Herzog. I'm a program manager with Cleveland Water Alliance, and we at CWA, at WEF, and the Midwest Big Data Innovation Hub are really excited to have you here today. Water Data Forum is a series that these three organizations put on, have been putting on now. We're entering our third year, I believe, and the purpose of this series is really to engage with and demystify a variety of topics in the sphere of water and data. So really excited to engage in our conversation today about cybersecurity and interoperability in the water space. A little bit of housekeeping before we dive in today. Please do feel free to submit questions throughout today's session. We're actually not using the webinar format today. So contrary to this slide, you will be able to enter your questions directly into the chat. Depending on how Elkin wants to facilitate things, we may also allow questions verbally. But if you want to enter your question into the chat during the panel discussion, you won't forget them. It'll also help us sort of curate the flow a little more smoothly throughout. So with that, it's my great pleasure to introduce today our facilitator for this session, Elkin Hernandez, who's a director of maintenance services at DC Water, as well as a member of the WEF Intelligent Water Technology Committee. So now I'll hand it over to Elkin to introduce our panelists. Elkin.
Thank you, Max, and good afternoon, good morning for some today. Thank you for being here. And well, before I introduce our panelists today, the group of panelists, I'd like to make a small introduction of the topic and make reference to the fact that the U.S. water and wastewater sectors are currently undergoing a digital transformation. So for some more than others, but we all going in that direction. So many sector stakeholders are utilizing data-enabled capabilities to improve utility management, operations, service delivery. This undergoing process adds the need for adoption of more automation, sensors, data collection, network interfaces, analytical software. And as one of the collaterals of this effort is that we are increasing the cyber risk and exposure of our systems to different threats. You know, you have to consider that at the same time that we are improving our digital capabilities, there's state nation attackers that are becoming more aggressive. The criminals are more sophisticated. We have AI-enabled hacking tools and cybercrime as a service that intensifies the competition between attackers and defenders in what can be described as a never-ending arms race. So today we have a panel of SMEs, experts from different backgrounds, utility, the academic backgrounds, and consulting sectors that will help us to understand how the industry sees the relation between interoperability, what the needs are, and how that can be create new vectors of exposure for cyber threats, and how how the industry as a whole is trying to prepare itself to better handle the challenge that represents. So at this point, I would say we're going to go for just to understand the structure of the panel. We're going to have 4 very short presentations, and after that, we're going to open the panel for a discussion with questions that we have prepared. But also, we want to encourage you guys, as Max mentioned, to send your questions to the chat, and we'll try to organize those questions to make sure we get the best out of this hour. So with that said, I'm going to introduce my first panelist. Is Dr. Sunil Sinha. Dr. Sinha is a professor of civil and environmental engineering and is the director of the SWIM Center at Virginia Tech. The SWIM Center is the Sustainable Water Infrastructure Management Center of Excellence. Dr. Sinha is a National Science Foundation Career Award recipient in the area of sustainable water infrastructure and management system. He has performed extensive research in the areas of infrastructure, sustainability, pattern recognition, sensor informatics, resiliency, especially with water systems. He has participated in over 450 publications and referred in journals and reports. He's also featured as one of the participants of the PBS documentary titled Liquid Assets, is the story for water infrastructure. And he's also been present in different other sectors in NPR, the History Channel, and so on. He's truly an expert and a leader in the in the U.S. when it comes to water infrastructure. With that said, welcome, Dr. Sinha. He's going to take over control with his presentation.
Great. Thanks, Alken. Let me share my screen. Okay. So let me ask Alken, you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, perfect. So thanks, Alken, again for a very good introduction. And I would like to thank Water Environment Federation, also Cleveland Water Alliance and Midwest Big Data Hub for giving this opportunity. So again, my name is Sunil Sinha. I'm a professor and director here at the Swim Center, Virginia Tech. So I'm going to talk about this topic briefly before we go into the open panel session. So I have a few slides to share. So I will start with my first is, what's the grand challenge for the society? So if you carefully look at the first revolution, it came 1700 where steam engine and all those came. Then second revolution was more mass production of electricity and other stuff. Then the third came is IT. Now we are in the fourth revolution. What that means is the fusion of digital physical world. And that's why this topic is very important. So my background, I'm a civil engineer, but I did my PhD in computer science. So I relate digital physical world very well. And my PhD was 20 years back from University of Waterloo in Canada in artificial intelligence. So I will little bit touch on that also, the AI, the family of AI and big data today in the context of cybersecurity and interoperability issues. So having said that, I just, this is one of the project we are doing with Water Research Foundation, mainly to look into as a system of systems, right? When we talk about digital twin or collecting data, it's a complex system. It's not just one pump or pipe. If you carefully look at the whole system, it's a natural, built, and social. So that's why we call big data, right? Because it's a lot of data, and then the interaction, interdependencies, dependencies of this data play a big role. So this framework I'm just showing you for the context, because today what we are going to talk is the digital. So if you look at the top one, we are developing intelligent water framework. So why intelligent? Why it is not intelligent now? All right, and what makes it intelligent? People use these terms intelligent, smart, kind of, but what really it mean? So what it means is better decision, right? Better service delivery. That's all it is. So what makes it smarter and what's make it better? So it's a technology, people, process, and technology. So all the building blocks you are saying, most of them is related with data, what we are going to talk today. So one block I will just talk today for this context, not each and every block, but this report should be out by end of this year or early next year. So these are the building blocks for intelligent water. Most of them is related with data, cybersecurity, and all those. So I will not use the word cybersecurity because and that's what I'm going to talk. So if you look at the smart electric grid or transportation, they talk digital resilience. So what really is digital resilience? It's the same like a physical resilience, right? When we talk about how we can deliver the service when hurricane and all those comes, or even the kind of a disaster by human. So delivering the service is the key. So that's kind of my discussion will be in the digital resilience framework. So if you carefully look at the bottom one, that's where the digital technologies, then the digital workforce, because we are not talking fully autonomous system. At least in my lifetime, I feel that the water sector will be a human in the loop kind of a concept, right? Even if we bring AI and all those, some we can automate, but most of them will be human in the loop will be there. So humans is also important. And then comes the whole cyber, which includes cyber infrastructure. But that's a bottom layer. But look at the middle layer. That is also important, the level 2, the data. And the whole interoperability and all those data can be biased if QA/QC is not done. So that will also affect the service delivery. So all the bottom part is kind of a digital resilience, which brings to the whole water sector resilience or intelligent water, whatever term we use. There are many framework you have seen in the literature from AWWA, from many organizations, including NIST, Department of Homeland Security. So we have also looked into all, but all talks kind of the same, threat assessment and all those, and other speakers are going to talk in the panel. So I'm not going to spend a lot of my time in the cyber resilience point of view, but I will focus more on data side and give you some example what challenge we faced by doing some project. So what is really data? So data, big data, we said, is not just volume. Big data is defined by 5 V's: velocity, volume, veracity, variety, and all those. And also data fair, which is a big research going on from National Science Foundation, not just in the water sector, but in medical and other fair. You may have heard this term, data fair, FAIR, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Right. So otherwise, you cannot convert data. The pyramid you're seeing at the bottom, data to information, knowledge to wisdom, that will not come if your data is not interoperable or QA/QC and all those is not done in the right way. So other sector I feel is advanced. I worked in the transportation and smart electric grid. I talk to NIST all the time. I feel they have developed a better. Water is behind. And I will give you a real example why I say that. So our is very siloed. Even within the utility we worked with in one of the project, which I'm going to talk, we face that GIS. Most of the utilities said, Sunil, we have GIS database. Okay, so we said we will take all this GIS and create a national database. The challenge came is, and that's what I'm talking about, mainly the interoperability for the Pipe ID project. So most of my talk is, and then we can open from the forum discussion, is mainly related with data interoperability. Their frameworks are there. This is just one I cut and pasted, but there are many frameworks are there from Australia, from Europe, and all those. In some way, I feel Australians and Europeans, they are kind of advanced than us in developing some kind of standards or interoperability model. So I feel that water sector in US also need that. And why? Because of the Pipe ID project. Some of you may have heard about this project after Flint Congress decided to have. So this was a congressional allocation to develop a national database of water pipes. When we started this project way back in 2016, the biggest challenge came is, this is not based on survey, this is data. So we had to collect all the data from the utilities all across the US because that's what Congress wanted to see, the statistical confidence and all those. So GIS data, we tried to get GIS data. Most of the utility, they gave us GIS, not all. Some smaller utility gave us CAD file and all the, so we had to digitize that. So even GIS data units were not same, coding was not same. So now you think about analysis at the scale, if you have to do, so this is a very heavy slide, but the right-hand side is architecture of this database, left-hand side is the sources. So data comes in many shapes and sizes, even from the utilities, somewhere Excel spreadsheet, somewhere GIS database, some was coming from their SCADA, some from proprietary software. Now we had to go and buy different softwares to read those files. And that was, some was even written in Fortran 4. I don't know if you guys know Fortran. I know because in India, when I started my undergrad, the Fortran 4 language. So that is the real challenge. And especially the challenge is when you want to do analysis at a scale. Utilities are political boundaries. So I will give you one example. Portland is way advanced in pipe analysis and all those, but just Portland data was not enough. Why? Because when you stratify these data like a cast iron pipe is not just one data set. If you divide cast iron into line on line, different corrosive environment, pre-1970s, your data set reduces. And then you are not going to get a statistical confidence of 80% or 90%. So that's why it is so important to have, and now we are talking AI application. We can't use AI and all those if data interoperability standards and all those is not there. Otherwise, orange apple you are mixing, right? And it's a lot of manual work. So what I'm showing you in this slide is that really to develop at the scale of US, you want to compare the data with one utility, Portland, because no utility will have all the data they need, right? And so you need to bring in the data set from other utilities, of course, with the same feature and all those, but you can't do if there is no standard. So that's kind of my overall is like why we need in the water sector both. And my term is more digital resilience, where we have to look into all from the technology, software side, and then analytics side. So I will stop here. Elkin, back to you.
Thank you, Sunil. Thanks for the presentation, and then we'll get back to you during the panel when the panel opens. So let me quickly introduce our next panelist. Is Zonetta English. She is the Strategic Initiatives and Project Delivery Director for the Louisville and Jefferson County Metropolitan Sewer District. Ms. English has 30 years in the wastewater industry in various capacities: lab management and certification, operations support, research and capital project management. She was selected as one of the 20 professionals among 5 disciplines: chemists, wastewater industry experts, state regulators, and environmentalists, by the U.S. Was selected by the U.S. EPA Office of Water to serve on the Federal Advisory Committee for Detection and Quantitation to propose a new method for a new method detection limit. She's currently leading the research for new processing and advanced technologies that will enhance, that could enhance any aspect of the operation for MSD. And she works under the direct by assignments from the executive leadership of the water utility. That's among other, that kind of description and covers a lot of interactions and initiatives with different organizations across public and private sector. Ms. Sunil will go on her presentation starting now. So we say thank you, Sunil, for joining us. Thank you for your time, and I'll turn it to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I want to try to share my screen. Let's see here. Is it sharing?
Not yet. It's working now.
Okay. All right. As he mentioned, and I just want to thank our host, WEF, and all of our esteemed panelists. I really feel privileged the opportunity to participate. As he mentioned, I am the Strategic Initiatives and Project Delivery Director for MSD, and I also am the chair for Utility Management Committee for WEF. And this is one of the topics that came up in our leadership roundtable at WEF Tech. And so my presentation is basically bringing it down to the project management level, because this is what we're supposed to do in terms of some of my responsibilities. And I just want to try to give you an overview about how do we get there. And so just to kind of give you just a couple of slides about what we do at MSD and how do we get to the point of where this comes into play about trying to implement new technologies, as well as dealing with the concerns for cybersecurity. So we just want to kind of give you some overview about our core services. We provide wastewater, stormwater, and flood protection. So our mission is to provide quality wastewater, stormwater, flood protection. And our goal is, of course, with everybody, is to protect public health and safety through sustainable solutions. And the key thing that leads us today is our fiscal stewardship and strategic partnerships. Louisville MSD is located in Louisville, Kentucky. And this is just as a map of our service area. And so we have 2 treatment plants that outfall to the Ohio River, as well as we have some that outfall to local streams, and that'll be important when you talk about some of the decisions that we've made going forward. Here's some of the statistics to kind of let you know how busy we are. We have service area of 376 square miles. We have a stormwater drainage. We have 73,000 catch basins, 675 detention basins. Flood protection, we protect more than 200,000 people, 137,000 homes, and the most important is $34 billion in property. We have 27.1 miles of flood wall and levee and 16 pump stations. We have a dedicated staff of 700 plus employees in the area that I work with on terms of capital projects is wastewater treatment. And we roughly treat 156 million gallons of wastewater per day. Part of the other initiatives that we have going is that we've also extended our service due regionalization. So with the amount of staff, and we just recently acquired 17 other treatment facilities outside of our county. So it's very, very, very important for us to be able to use technology, which involves software, in order for us to maintain the services that we have and to expand. So our current motto is that MSD and to our ratepayers and stakeholders that we are actually 3 utilities in 1. We also expect over the next 5 years to approximately do about $500 million in construction. So one of the things that we have done in terms of our mission is talk about one of our critical success factors, and that is to realize operational efficiencies and revenue generation through strategic partnerships and innovation. And one of that innovation at work has been artificial intelligence. Our executive director, which is Mr. Tony Parrott, who is very forward-thinking, introduced this concept to us. And so we began a pilot project back in 2020. And it's currently in progress at 2 regional facilities. One that outfalls to the Ohio River, which is Derrick Guthrie, which is a 60 by design, a 60 MGD plant that has average flow about 32 MGD per day. And then also, which and that one has been going for a year. And then I have another project in place at Cedar Creek, which is a smaller plant by design, is about a 7.5 MGD plant. And about an average flow of 5. Our largest wastewater treatment plant is Morse Foreman, which we will leave for last, which treats about 120 MGD, which is the largest treatment facility in the state of Kentucky. And we have a wet weather flow about 350 MGD. The overall goal for us to implement artificial intelligence at MSD is that we are wanting to utilize this for a training tool for our staff. I think we're facing all the same challenges that other utilities are in terms of attrition, in terms of retirements. We're also looking for cost efficiency, so looking at predictive maintenance for pumps and motors. This is what this AI will allow us to do. And also looking at our operational costs in terms of monitoring our energy and chemical uses. We're also utilizing AI to optimize our operational efficiencies. And we're also, which has been very, very helpful, is use this data to guide capital decisions. So often our operational staff who do this every day recognize that we may need some new equipment. We also all of us are faced with those challenges about how we're going to do our capital spend. But what this has allowed us to do is to verify our capital needs. So how do we minimize our cybersecurity risk? One thing that we have done is we have dedicated team that are core project team members. And as you know, that's a very, very challenge with everybody who already has a full day with all of their current workload, but to pull that core team. We have a vetted O&M agreement that involves our legal team. And then we also have an information security agreement that our chief IT officer has put into place. That's very, very vigorous, that we sign with all of our people who provide us software and applications. We have firewall restrictions and monitoring. And then we also have a very critical endpoint protection. And then we also, on a regular annual basis, have ongoing cybersecurity training, and we also have phishing exercises that are regular, so that we're unexpectedly have opportunities that they test our staff and grade those KPIs about how well we're doing as staff. So we're constantly doing this. One thing I just wanted to share with you is this is our current process mapping for the project that we have right now in terms of implementing. This is very, very important because, as you all probably all is struggle with maintaining our IT staff. So we wanted to have a template that we know regardless of who's involved and how it's going to happen. So I got permission from Mr. Bagley to share this with you. So this could kind of tell you that we have 2 firewalls set up, because that's the mostly concern is how far you're going to let your, the systems that you have get into your actual network. And so there's something that may be here that we limit. We have to where we limit what our the technology we have is AquaSite about going to our historian. So we do limit that. And there's some other activities that go in between to your left of your screen between the firewall and go in there in terms of our lab data. So we upload that through CVS files. I'm sorry. Okay, so just my last slide is just really want to just talk to you about our lessons learned. Is that one thing I would say, if any technology that you're implementing, just make sure you get your IT team involved at the project concept. That's very, very, very important for them to basically understand what you're trying to do and for them to assimilate the proper team. Make sure you include all your stakeholders. One thing we found out that there was the people we didn't even realize that would be affected by the projects that we were implementing and the assistance that we need. Also allocate contingency funds for unexpected project costs. One thing that we had to do is increase our number of SCADA tags. And so those weren't typically have been funded. We were able to come up with those, but those are the things that you want to do as far as your project management and mapping that out. Also develop a vigorous training program and user guide to optimize. That's one thing very proud of that we've done. We've also allowed that this was part of the training was allowed us to give continued education units to our operators. And so that's going to be very, very important because you have this learning curve and you don't want to implement this very expensive technology without having ongoing support and to make sure that the people that's intended to use it have the opportunity to use it and make it user friendly. And then also answer this question: do you have the appropriate devices to deliver the technology, and make sure that you have those as soon as possible. So so that's kind of just what I want to just give you at that project management level. Wanted to share that with you today. And I'll be standing by to answer any questions on the panel. And I'll turn it back over to Mr. Hernandez. And again, thanks everyone for allowing me the opportunity to participate today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. English. Thank you for bringing the utility perspective to the discussion. It's highly appreciated. I move quickly to introduce our next presenter. Is Michael Thompson. Michael is the Critical Infrastructure and ICS Cyber Outcome Lead at the MITRE Corporation. ICS is, for whoever doesn't know, it stands for Industrial Control System. Michael joined MITRE in 2021 after spending more than 25 years in the process control, functional safety engineering, and industrial control system cybersecurity fields. Michael has deep knowledge and experience in the chemical, nuclear, water, and oil and gas industries. He holds a bachelor's degree on Information Systems Science from the University of Maryland and a master's degree in Systems Engineering from the Johns Hopkins University. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, thank you very much. Glad to be here. I'm hoping everybody can see my NCCOE slide, right, with the water plant in front there. Good to go. Yes. All right. Yes, perfect.
Perfect.
Excellent. Yeah, so I spend the bulk of my day working with the National Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, the NCCOE. It's a function of NIST and MITRE together, working as a partnership. And when I heard about this opportunity to speak, I wanted to come on here and talk about one of the things we're doing in the water industry right now. We've got a community of interest standing up, and we are always looking forward for looking to the industry to help provide us guidance with some of the work that we're doing. And so this right here is the latest community of interest around securing water and wastewater utilities. And so I'll make this presentation, of course, available to anybody that wants it, but we would absolutely love for anyone in the organizations represented on this call to come and participate in this community of interest. So like right now, we understand water and wastewater is an extremely important part of our civilization. And so I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but this slide might give you a little bit more of an understanding about how water ties into every other critical infrastructure dependency, critical infrastructure sector out there. And so one of my other functions is I'm the critical infrastructure principal engineer in charge of industrial control system cybersecurity. And so I'm doing a job right now where I'm looking at the various critical functions. So the government has identified 55 national critical functions, and those 55 national critical functions are tied to these 16 critical infrastructure sectors. And so I put a little red line around the water sector so you can see how important it is. Pretty much every other sector going down, chemical sector, commercial facilities, communications, all the way down, they all have some dependency on the water sector. And so we think that that makes the water sector incredibly important to the way we live life in our country. And so because of that, we find this to be an incredibly important industry to safeguard. And so what we're doing currently at this time is we're standing up real world applicable security guidance around securing water and wastewater utilities.
So in other words, if they're in water, they're charged. So beyond the...
I had some background information there. Thanks. So yeah, the project right here is the securing water and wastewater utilities. And so the idea is we're going to profile several areas that will strengthen the cybersecurity posture within the operational environment of the water and wastewater facilities. And so we're looking to focus primarily on the asset management, the data integrity component, remote access, and network segmentation. Many of the organizations that are on this call today have already contributed in some way to the initial draft of this project description. And so we'll be rolling this out here shortly. By rolling it out, I mean, we're going to be starting on the actual project work to create this document. And so again, we're looking to make this into a real world way to apply cybersecurity controls to the water and wastewater industry. And so we're, again, looking for anyone that wants to participate. We welcome you. The idea here is to make this something that organizations can use and not just a theoretical research document. We don't want to create another piece of shelfware where you're like, yeah, this is great, and put it on the shelf and never look at it. We want this to be something that an organization, both large and medium, even small rural water treatment facilities could look to leverage the information within. And so, you know, when I hear a lot about some of the challenges faced, and one of the things we've seen a lot is oftentimes you see a misalignment of business needs and cybersecurity requirements. And I'm sure we're going to probably talk about something along those lines in our Q&A session, but documents like these and documents like the NIST cybersecurity profile are great opportunities to help align those expectations between the business and the cybersecurity requirements. And so if anyone's interested, by all means, please check out the NIST profiles that are already out there. There's a couple of good ones that are probably could be leveraged for the water and wastewater treatment industries. We could always customize it to be more reflective of that. But if anyone's familiar with the NIST cybersecurity framework, identify, detect, protect, respond, and recover, these are all applicable areas that can be leveraged to support the water industry. And so with that, I'm always short on slides and long on words. So I don't want to bore you guys with a whole long slide deck presentation here. If you have any interest in what we're doing in the NCCOE, please reach out to this email. We would love to have you, and we're looking forward to working with you. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for the presentation, and we'll get back to you after the next presenter. So let me introduce our next panelist. The next panelist is Mr. Chelo Vitasovic. Cello is a known SME in the industry. His focus has been on mathematical modeling, operational technology, and real-time controls and information systems. He has executed a number of projects for water sector utilities in North America, UK, China, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Australia. He has currently, we can describe him as a principal investigator for a WERF 8806 project, a co-principal investigator for WERF Project 5039, Smart Utilities and Intelligent Water Systems. He's been past chair of the Intelligent Water System Committee in WEF. He has been recipient of the WEF Harrison Prescott Eddy Medal of Outstanding Research, and he has been the project team lead for the WEF WISE program. With that said, welcome, Cello, and thank you for being here. Turning to you.
Thank you very much, Elkin. So both cybersecurity vulnerability and lack of system integration or interoperability are significant challenges for most organizations. I will offer a systems thinking view of these issues. The title of today's forum conveys a conventional thought that interoperability may be impeded by and lacking because of the concerns about cyber vulnerability, with adverse impact on different aspects of utility management and performance that benefit from system integration. So if our primary or sole focus is on defending our technology systems, concerns about cybersecurity can result in data being locked up in different systems, inaccessible, and remain in solitary confinement. So if interoperability, I'll use the word integration from now on because it's easier to pronounce, and system integration can improve the capabilities and performance of organizations. However, the significant investments that organizations have made in technology have often failed to produce full value because data in different systems is not easily accessible or shared. There is a tendency to view both cybersecurity and system interoperation as technology issues. I will propose that people, organizations, and processes are integral parts of both the challenge and the solution here. Organizations create value when members of the workforce interact within an organization to execute processes that may be enabled by technology. For quite a long time, even before cybersecurity emerged as a major issue, interoperability and system integration have been broadly recognized to be both beneficial and lacking, and has been viewed traditionally as a primarily technology issue. So let's look at an example. During a 4-day Water Research Foundation workshop that was attended by roughly 40 utility representatives, participants examined possible improvements in these 4 areas of core business and identified key challenges that they may be facing. Oops. They mapped each challenge to a 3x3 matrix, describing it if a challenge was related to people, processes, or technology, and if it was on the strategic, tactical, or operational level. Across these 4 business areas, utilities identified that only 11% of their challenges were related to technology, 46% of them were related to people, 43% to processes, and majority of the challenges across these 4 areas were on a strategic level. This was self-reported by utilities. This underscored the need for an approach that would consider all 3 of these key elements. This approach starts by determining how well we're doing, the maturity of an organization's current capabilities to manage people, processes, and technology. Our approach includes different models for levels of maturity. The maturity model for processes defines 5 levels. On initial level, the knowledge about the processes in people's heads. On the managed level, knowledge is shared among team members. On the standardized level, processes have been well-defined and documented. On predictable level, processes are managed quantitatively based on measurements and feedback and metrics and KPIs. And on innovating level, organizations practice continuous improvement. About technology, the technology maturity model examines, are we collecting the data that we need to successfully execute a business process? Is data managed effectively? Do individual systems have adequate analytical capabilities? And if can we access the data across different systems and perform enterprise level analytics? And system integration and interoperability are the key required for the enterprise analytics. So the maturity model and tool for organizational culture and workforce was developed over more than a year of engagement and collaboration of 18 utilities, and it helps us assess the maturity in the people aspects of value creation, and the different components of that model are shown on the slide. Our suite also includes a maturity model and a tool to assess an organization's readiness to implement the changes that are required to achieve improvement. So we can assess this maturity based on these categories. So what do all these maturity models tell us? Let's say that you are asked to develop a decision support system or automation for a specific process. It might be useful for you to know that the process is not well documented, that is complex, and the impact of failure is significant, that the data required to perform the business process is not collected or generated, that the employee engagement is low, and that the teamwork and collaboration among different business units is lacking. You might want to know these things. So in summary, the barriers to system integration in cybersecurity are determined by maturity of our technology, maturity of our processes, workforce and organizational culture, and our capability to implement changes. And focusing on a single aspect, it creates risks. So methods based on systems thinking allow us to consider all key aspects of utility management and to think holistically. Like the Buddhist said to the hot dog vendor, make me one with everything. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share my thoughts. This is the list of references that provide the background for my presentation, and I will also put them into the chat line for our Zoom meeting. And thank you again very much.
Thank you, Cello. Thank you for bringing your perspective, the perspective of your project, and remind us that there is a human element that we cannot underestimate. So the next, we're gonna move into a panel mode Q&A sessions. If anybody has a question, please feel free to send your questions through the chat. And other than that, I'm gonna start putting questions out there to the panel and let them answer and provide their opinions to my questions. So the first one is, please, if you can define what the intersection of cybersecurity and interoperability mean for you, please share your thoughts with us. Michael, perhaps you have something to share with us in that regard.
Yeah, no, this is great. And in fact, it's very much tied into what the gentleman was just talking about on the best project there. And, you know, I see so much value in when you look through the proper lens in this regard. So, you know, I'd say interoperability is a kind of a crucial element when it comes to cybersecurity. Poor interoperability to me translates to gaps. You know, gaps translate to vulnerabilities. So it's less of a one versus the other. That's kind of what I'm getting at. It's less of a, you know, interoperability versus cybersecurity. They should be looked at as more complementary. And one could even argue that an increase in operability could lead to even better cybersecurity. We could use data historians, for example, to help better detect anomalous behavior. So that's kind of how I look at it when we're talking about the intersection of cybersecurity and interoperability. That's all I got.
Elkin, I think you may be on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Shallow. So I was going to say, anybody has any thought on that question they wanted to share with us on what is their point of view or perception on that intersection between the two fields?
Yeah, I will just add, I agree with, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, great. Yeah, no, I agree with Michael that interoperability shouldn't be taken as a kind of hurdle or versus cybersecurity. Interoperability, a good interoperability, what exactly, I mean, we are talking interoperability, especially, I mean, interoperability also has many layers. But if we are talking about the whole data and all those in the water sector, so many vendors are there. We don't have standards. Each vendor comes with their own software, and now you need to each software need to talk to each other. I know Houston is trying to develop in-house data interoperability, mainly because they work with like 10, 15 different vendors for CCTV pipe inspection, for the pump, and the. So I feel by having a good interoperability standard will definitely enhance cybersecurity.
Thank you, Sunil. We have limited time. We have only about 10 minutes left, so thinking about using that time as well as we can. What can we do to improve moving down the road? What are the things that you think need to be considered to make sure we are in a path of improvement on regard of having supporting that interoperability that the digital transformation requires, and do it in a safe manner? Open question.
Elkin, I have something to offer. What I was trying to communicate is that although technology is a big part, when we talk about things, I think my focus has been on utility management, and data management is a part of it. It's a part of it. I walked, about a couple of years ago, I walked into a process control center, and there was a sticky note at one of the monitors that said, well, this is the account and the password that you use to log into the system. So I don't care who the vendor is. I don't care who configured the system, but you got to get rid of these sticky notes. On our project that we're doing right now, one of the initiatives that Great Lakes is doing is managing gas cylinders. Let's start from the basics. We're in the business of moving water, cleaning it, and stuff like that. So let's start with the basics, and making sure that we're focused on the business.
I heard earlier, and I thought that was a great response, but I heard earlier the mention of a good applied systems engineering approach. And this holds true in so many fashions and so many facets of it, right? I always tell people, they ask, why do systems fail? And there was a big study done of 800 or 1,000 different processes by a man named Trevor Kletz. He's the father of functional safety engineering. And he found out that about 65% of all failures can be attributed to improper specification and design. And so leveraging a good applied systems engineering approach will clearly define those requirements that need to be satisfied in order for the system to operate. And if you apply a good systems engineering approach, you'll have good interfaces between the different systems, leading to interoperability. And so when I heard that earlier, my ears perked up, and I was like, wow, this person gets it. Leveraging that systems engineering mindset and applying that to the system. A lot of people will say, hey, it's too costly or it takes too much time. And I would counter by, if you don't do it, it'll cost you even more in the long run. So that's kind of my thoughts on what could make it better going forward.
Yeah, so Michael, I will add on the systems approach. The one project we are doing at Water Research Foundation, a sewer set system. The challenge is how you define sewer set system. In the water, it's very problematic because this utility operates on the political boundary, right? And that boundary is not really your system boundary. And how you define dependencies, interdependencies, because river doesn't stop, it starts from Houston boundary and ends at the Houston boundary. So that's, I feel, is the biggest challenge in the water sector. And I saw one question was there that how you develop the standard interoperability. I feel each utility cannot develop a standard, and being an academic institution, Virginia Tech cannot develop a standard. So that's where these professional associations need to come in. Somebody has to take a lead in the water sector to develop some standards.
I would like to bring in the voice of utilities. When we met on our initiative and we asked utilities, what are the most likely causes of problems or failure in ranking? They said that it was workforce and organizational culture, and acquisition implementation technology was third. When we asked them about what actually would help most, it's a common methodology, not improved technology, but a common methodology. And I think that maybe the previous speaker, Max, was kind of alluding to that. And systems thinking is all about interactions. It's not about the queen and the different pieces of the chessboard. It's about playing chess.
Thank you, Chalo. That's certainly the first question that was posted in the chat is certainly a very profound one, and certainly one of the biggest challenge that we have in the industry. I guess goes, as Sunil was saying, the challenge comes along with the fact that we have political boundaries, and that's the nature of the industry. We have another question in the chat that's more on the technical side, maybe for Michael. Why does our industry not expand the use of biometrics? Any thought there?
Well, I mean, yeah, biometrics is great for like identification and everything, right? I mean, I don't think we should limit it to just that component. Any good cybersecurity program should be comprised of layers of protection or defense in depth. And so biometrics is just one means to identify a person, right? So, I mean, yeah, it can definitely be a technology that can be further embraced, but I'd never like to put blinders on and just kind of focus on one thing. Again, using a good systems engineering approach, we should be looking at using the technology that best suits the requirement that has been, decided upon by the users. So, it's a matter of making sure that, we're using the right tool for the job. Essentially, biometrics could absolutely be that right tool in certain conditions. So it's all a matter. It's in typical fashion, it depends.
I'd like to address the question about developing interoperability standards. We got to get rid of this word. It's too tough for me. How many of you have seen consultants' presentations or vendor that looks like this? There's a bubble in the middle with their name, and there are bubbles all around with other systems and arrows going into the central bubble. How many times have you seen that?
All right. So I have a follow-up. We have a follow-up question regarding that question, Chalo. It says, is anyone currently specifically taking on the challenge of developing interoperability standards? I mean, the question has a follow-up saying, yeah, it seems everybody knows that they're needed. And I agree, we all know that it's needed. I don't know that there is an effort that comes top of my head. I know there's been several going on.
Yeah, one I will tell you, for the pipe, we are partnering with both AWWA and ASC, because we as an academic institution cannot create a standard. So we are partnering but this is just specific to pipelines.
I want to say one thing. Clemenceau said that war is too important to be left to the generals. Standards are too important to be left to the vendors.
I would definitely, exclamation point behind what he just said. You definitely, that's like letting the fox run the chicken house. If you let the vendors write the standards, it should. When I work heavily in the IEC 62443 standard development community, and we always limit the amount of influence the vendors themselves have, right? We want more end users. We want the end users to help us define what the standard should be. And then they should, the vendors should adapt that. So that's an approach I think has worked for us for years in the ISA and the IEC 62443 committee space. But yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, let's let the end users develop the standards. Yeah, I was going to say that NIST oftentimes has a lot of good. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go.
No, that's what I was going to say. For our information security agreement, that's what the baseline that we use is NIST, because they have a standard for cybersecurity. So that's our agreements are all based on that standard.
And the NIST documents, I always like to say it's like if you look at the NIST cybersecurity framework, and to use a reference here from our childhood, like it's like the Voltron robot, the black lion. So that the NIST document is that center thing that all the other things attached to, right? And so that's a good jumping off point. Right. Again, I think the use of the trades organizations would also be very beneficial in kind of bringing everybody together.
Right, but I will add, Michael, on that. The NIST cannot create a standard, right? It's still NIST recommendation is good, but the problem with the water sector is someone has to take the leadership role and try to make that a standard, workable standard.
Well, thank you. We're coming to the end of the hour. I think it's very interesting discussion, and we'll have to figure out a way to follow it up. But very interesting. I want to thank the panelists for giving us their time and sharing their expertise with us today. I want to thank all the attendees and especially the ones that share with us questions. And I want to invite you guys to continue attending these series of webinars. And remember, this is the Water Data Forum. The next session is coming on wastewater surveillance for public health on June 16th, 2023. We invite you to join us and continue to be part of these knowledge sharing sessions. Thanks to everybody, and hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day.